Perfect. Good evening, fellow Rotarians. So welcome to our monthly meeting. So today we have a pretty straight agenda. So it's basically PDG Will Miller will drive us through. We know most of us, I would say, are in Florida, so we know that hurricane is coming our way soon. So PDG will basically drive us through the hurricane preparedness. And then Paul, our president-elect Paul Grogan will join us around 7:30, 7:35 in order to drive us through the disaster recovery. So having said that, PDG Wills, it's all yours now.
The weight, the responsibility. Let me see if I can master screen share here,
Okay.
which has been a challenge. Let's see how that is. How's that?
Yeah, it's coming. Yeah, we can see your screen.
Is that good? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here's where all of our folks hang out, and we're hoping to increase our reach. But I've changed this presentation up a little bit, and I'm not going to talk about planning. You know, we've been talking about planning for years, and so if you haven't planned by now, then just somehow catch up on that. What I'm talking about is preparation, which is actually doing something to get ready in this case. So this is going to be for individuals. Previous iterations of this talked about corporations and businesses, but this is just for you guys. And I'm going to do the first part, Paul's going to do the second part. So hopefully when we're done, you realize that there is risk and reward in the various things that I'm going to recommend. If you do some of them, there's a reward. The general risk is that if you don't do any of them, that there's some pain involved somewhere. If you're in a disaster of any of the many kinds that there are, and that there's some easy things that you can do right now or the rest of the week that don't cost you a mint and can actually make a difference. And there's some cost-effective mitigations. You don't have to break the bank. I have broken a couple of banks with my preparations and mitigations. I was just looking at the cost of the hurricane impact windows that I put in about 8 years ago. It's about 30 grand worth of windows. So I could have taken a number of Caribbean cruises after that. And then Paul is going to talk about resources and summary of some things that he and other members up in the north part of the district have done. And then I'll finish up by what's coming next, and we'll do Q&A. So at least 50% of folks, and this is not just for our area, but just about anywhere, are not ready for anything. I mean, they're not ready for, an electrical storm. They live in a flood zone, and they're not ready for that. Paul told me about a lady they worked with in Crystal River who had been flooded out 5 times, and she was in the middle of her 6th flooding event. Okay. So, there's also the question of who's going to help you and when. I have had folks say, oh, look, that's why I pay all this money for insurance. I don't need to do anything to prepare. That's why I've got insurance. Well, pick a number, get in line, because if you can get an insurance estimator right after a major event, you'll be lucky. And then if you can get a builder to come in and fix things, you'll be luckier yet. And I'll also mention about FEMA. So suppose you do nothing and magic happens. That's one of my favorite quotes. You do nothing and magic happens. Why don't you just hope for the best? Do you feel lucky? Do you? Well, this guy was ready. And before you pass any judgment on this gentleman, I want you to note that he has 4 different kinds of beer. Okay? and his toilet paper, so he obviously has been thinking ahead. I don't like panic, I don't like uncertainty, and I certainly don't like pain. And preparing helps to reduce all of those. And you know it's going to happen. You know something's going to happen. So are you prepared to go 30 days without electricity, like the people in Cape Coral did when Vince was the director of development down there, Vince Cotero? Or you prepared to go 30 days without shelter? Well, you can probably find shelter easier than you can find power sometimes. Water? What's your plan for water? Outside help. Well, as you know, there have been reductions in a whole lot of entities that provide support post-disaster. And a lot of people don't understand that the Small Business Administration will provide either reduced interest or interest-free loans for repairs. So that's where the SBA comes in. Of course, FEMA, which has been running low on money all along, has just had some additional cuts. Uh, you've had staff cuts. There's public confusion. Contributions are down in many areas. You know, everybody has their hand out, and the need in communities for a variety of reasons, even without a disaster, has been increasing. So one of the easiest preparations is just do a little planning. And this is about the only time I'm going to talk about planning. If you want to know how to do that, what should be in it, it could be a complicated plan, an easy plan, just a bullet plan. But if you don't do anything else, and you're in the United States, get a NOAA weather alert radio with the specific area message encoding feature. Runs on 120 volts with a battery, stays silent, tests itself once a week, and is there always when you need it to tell you what any kind of disaster. Also, have two disaster kits. One, if you stay at your residence or place of abode, and the other, if you have to evacuate. Well, for example, I'm not in a flood zone. I'm 42 feet above mean sea level. Does that mean I should not have a leaving, going away disaster kit? No, it doesn't. If there's a major chlorine leak or some other chemical spill where I have to evacuate, or some other major problem, not water related, then I want to have that kit ready to get out of Dodge. And food and water for 14 days per person. Per person. You can get by on a gallon a day if you don't bathe and flush toilets, but you need to have water or some way to purify water, and I will mention something about that here shortly. Then this is the time, by the way, to buy the NOAA Weather Alert Radio. It's probably the best disaster insurance that you could have. They run around 35 bucks, 40 bucks. And again, the only thing they do is pick up the NOAA Weather Alert broadcast, and they do that automatically. So having one that's on batteries or you wind it up, you know, that's all fine and good, but that's not an automatic broadcast. There are people who said, look, I don't need that because I have the weather alert on my phone. All fine and good. Out middle of the country where there were a lot of tornadoes last year, one group of people said, yeah, we got the tornado alert on our phones 15 minutes after the tornado went by. So the NOAA Weather Alert Radio is really your friend. One of my all-time favorites, and I created this slide just for us, something that you probably wouldn't think of if you have a home or a totally furnished apartment. You have probably two waterproof containers that you can put documents in. If you have a front loading washer, you can throw a lot of documents, pictures, important things in a Ziploc bag, throw that in the washer, close and lock the door. And although you may see many front load washers laying in farmers' fields after a tornado, I challenge you to find one with the door open. They're almost always closed, locked, and watertight. The other, anybody have any idea what the other appliance in your home similar might be? Anybody have a dishwasher?
Yeah,
You
dishwasher.
can use a dishwasher. Same kind of thing. Very seldom will you'll see that ripped out by a tornado and opened. So that's kind of a neat thing. In my washer, I would put documents like my deed, uh, important pictures, and Nikola Tesla's entire FBI file, which I also value. Cost-effective mitigations. 70% of home damage in a windstorm, tornado, or hurricane begins at the garage door. Don't bother about the duct taping your windows. All that does is keep small pieces of glass from flying, and then you have big pieces of glass flying. What happens is that if you have an old garage door and or old garage door track, one or the other of those will fail. The pressure of the increased wind will come in, pressurize your garage, pull the roof off, and peel your roof back like a sardine can. So all of the experts say if you're going to put some money, and it's not a whole lot of money to get that replaced, by the way, put it into a wind-rated garage door and a new track for that door. Don't put a new door in an old track. So that's one thing that you can do if you're a homeowner that will significantly reduce your chance of wind damage to the home. 3M solar film on the window is good, but that doesn't prevent the window from being blown in. Armor screen, which I was just talking to the armor screen people in South Florida today. It is a ballistic material. You can see through it from the backside. This is the front of my house. I keep my armor screen for these triple sliders rolled up during hurricane season over the lintel of the front door and the sliders. And this is very light. One person can deploy this, and it anchors, comes down at about a 60-degree angle and anchors down to eye bolts and supports buried in the ground. And you can't take a military bayonet and stab through this fabric. And it will withstand 135-mile-an-hour flying coconuts.
Yeah, and another thing is we have solar power and 3 Tesla power walls, and if when everybody else's power goes off, we can deploy those screens and nobody knows we have electricity.
Yeah, when I was telling one of my neighbors that, you know, I was prepared, they said, well, you may have power when everybody else doesn't, but I think you better have blackout shades so none of us know that you have power. You can get a small amount of solar power from some very small devices that can keep your cell phone powered. Some of them, you've seen them advertised on TV recently, can, you know, power us medium appliance for a while. So, and this is Florida. We got all kinds of free solar. I had a system installed over the years which provides enough power for my home to run central air and everything else I've got. There's a device called a life straw, and they have bigger versions of this. And by the way, the life straw, larger version of what you see there, is provided in the rotary shelter box kit. So you can take dirt out of a mud, or water out of a mud puddle and just filter it through some cloth, and then use the life straw and suck 1,000 gallons of purified water, purified to drink, takes out bacteria, cysts, all kinds of things. In fact, they used to issue these to the people, the military folks that went down in the jungles for jungle training. And you always have a good source of water. So you can either store a whole bunch of water, or you can have a device which will purify the water that surely is going to be standing around all over the place after a major storm. So that's another mitigation that you can do. One of these life straws, which is I think they're under $30 easily, will purify 1,000 gallons of water. So it's quite a good thing to have. Anybody know what Bohica means besides my brother Tim? It's an abbreviation for a military term that we used to use. It. Bend over, here it comes again. So what are the things that I did say were coming, but they're actually here? We have already had the pandemic. In Florida, you got flooding all the time. Every hurricane comes with a free tornado, and then we have, Florida alternates between a place in Africa to have the most tornadoes in the world. Now, we don't have the great big Wizard of Oz Auntie M tornadoes yet, but we have many, many of them. And of course, if you're on the coast like me and David and others, many times they come in as water spouts, and when they hit land, then they're a tornado, and then they can do all kinds of things. Hail, we've seen, on the Weather Channel, softball size hail, golf ball size hail. And this stuff comes in, and it doesn't just break your car windshield, it'll destroy your roof. So, by the way, I asked my solar people, how do these panels hold up against hail? They said, fine, they're certified against hail. Drought, again, you can store water, you can dig a well, you can keep water on the premises. Wildfires, well, in our county, Pinellas County, we have paved over so much of the county that there isn't much left to burn. But a number of years ago, when there were over 100 wildfires to the north of us, the air became so toxic right here outside my house that you didn't want to go outside. And so at that point, I bought a number of electrostatic air cleaning precipitators. And so all the rooms in my house basically can have clean air no matter what it's like outside. Number of years ago, main water main broke in Pinellas County. It was Christmas Day. We had the family coming over for dinner, and we had no water. It was a real, real mess. So we had to relocate. And then, God forbid, we have a riot or civil unrest. You never know what kinds of events may cook that off, particularly these days with all the general unrest and unease and rivalry that folks have. So let me go into Q&A number 1 and see if and what kinds of questions any of you may have at this point. Yes, Rick.
Yeah, where can you buy the straw?
I think you can actually do that online through lifestraw.com. But
Okay.
if you Google that, There are numerous companies that sell those. I even saw that the Chinese discount company Temu was selling a similar product, but honestly, I would buy something that was certified from the company that makes them, like Life Straw, and you know, one for each member of your family would be plenty. Uh, and again, like they're good. Each one of these is a fairly small thing, you know. It's but the diameter of your thumb. Uh, is good for 1,000 gallons of totally pure water.
Amazon does carry them. I just checked.
Amazon does. Okay, great, great. Yeah, yeah, it's a good thing, and you can buy them in various sizes. Uh, the Life Straw again is I think the smallest they make, but and again in Rotary Shelter Box they have a much larger system that's good for, like, you know, 6, 7 people. Okay. All right. Other stuff.
I might comment that we use a lot of distilled water in our CPAP machines and whatever. So I save the gallon jugs that comes in distilled water. And so I filled up a bathtub with all these empty jugs. So when there's a threat of something coming, we just use the bathtub water to fill them up and be ready.
Yeah, good idea. Good idea. Yeah, I've got a CPAP too, and it's my second best friend. And you gotta have the distilled water for that. So plus it's nice to have some power for it too. So that helps. Yeah. If you have a generator at home, hopefully you have a carbon monoxide detector, because you know, even if you put your generator outside, if you happen to have a window open or breeze blowing the wrong way, just for your protection, if you use a generator, wherever you sleep, have the carbon monoxide detector there.
So, well, what else I know what we have in our, what we call hurricane kits, but what else could you tell people to put in their, say, hurricane or a disaster kit?
Well, you need, in case of, you know, in case of personal injury, you need to have some antiseptics in there. My personal favorite is Lefroy antiseptic. It's a single malt antiseptic, and it it works very well. Uh, but no, you know, non-perishable foods, uh, sardines. Alicia, I think we still have about 10 cans of Spam. Nothing like fried Spam in the morning.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, we have coffees, we have water, of course, we have fire starters. Um,
I
Flashlight,
also, what?
flashlights and
Flashlights, yes, yes. I have I have been over the years converting all of my lead acid batteries or alkaline batteries to rechargeables. So since I'm making my own power, I can charge up all these batteries, and I've slowly converted all of my flashlights to rechargeable batteries. But yes, yes. In fact, the last big hurricane, one of my neighbors sent his girlfriend over to our house because he was embarrassed to come over. He said, "Look, you have a spare flashlight and maybe an extra little battery powered radio," because he didn't have anything. And after the dust settled and hurricane was gone, next thing I heard was a brand new generator running over at his place. So he was ready after the fact. But yeah, flashlight's important. I like the little headlamps that you can put on.
yeah, he does. Well, you don't want to learn the lesson the hard way. I
Yeah.
mean, and then we've got the tax holiday, so to speak, for disaster supply preparedness.
Yeah, and they NOAA weather radios qualify for that. Spare gas tanks, flashlights, batteries, all of those things you can get tax-free during this. It's either 1 or 2 weeks of tax-free uh, disaster preparedness.
And that, I
Period.
think that, changes, oh, Mr. Paul's coming in. But, yeah, I mean, think of the bare necessities that you need. And we've got 3 bedrooms in this house, and all 3 of them underneath the beds, we've got storage boxes with supplies.
Mhm.
So
Good, yeah. Is there a list of items maybe that we could share with our club member?
Oh, sure.
yeah,
Sure. There. I have lists that have combined other lists, and I
Mhm.
can easily send out an email with a couple of attachments
Perfect. That
that'll
would,
have
I
things.
think that would be great.
yeah, thank
You know,
you.
one thing I had trouble getting here in Central Florida was I was going north in the winter, and I needed just a windshield ice scraper, for the car. You
Mhm.
think I could find? I mean, I'd go into an auto parts place and they would laugh at me.
Mhm.
I said, look, some of these people got to go north in the winter. But I was finally able to find one, and so
Mhm.
yeah, that's on my list if I had to go north in the winter. But yes, Malona, I'd be happy to do that.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay.
Tim Miller, you've been through a couple of hurricanes and a couple of flooding events, right?
Absolutely. During Isabel, we had, I live in an area that's about 3 feet above sea level. And I had water up in my yard during the first session, and more or less inundated the about 20, 24 inches of my garage, which my backyard slopes off. And in some cases, there's no immediate mitigation of that kind of thing. Uh, planning. I could have had sandbags, and since then I've added basically a large uh, uh, piece of um, um, oh, don't you hate it when the word escapes you? Um, uh, plastic sheeting to go over the top of the house. So should I have damage to the roof via hurricane or whatever, I can cover my entire roof with sheeting. So and I have the ability to tie that down. So that's one of my abilities, and I do have a natural gas generator that I installed. Um, so, and I do have a life straw. So so Will is correct on that, and having a pool, 18 around pool swimming yard in the backyard, I do have a source of water beyond that. And if you happen to put in rain barrels,
You never learn.
there you have a source of water. So those things are all helpful. If you put in a 55-gallon drum to drain your rainwater in, that's that can be a source of water. Obviously using some sort of filtration like the life straw makes it drinkable. So those are some of the things that I have done to help mitigate the possibility in this area.
Tim, as I understand it, you also recently purchased a whole case of antiseptic as well.
I did. Actually, I purchased two cases, to be
Two
honest.
cases of antiseptic.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was the make?
Henry McKenna.
Henry
and-
McKenna
yeah,
antiseptic. Yes, yes. Okay.
Henry McKenna. Yeah. Interestingly enough, that comes in 1.75 milliliter. So it gives you plenty of antiseptic
Okay.
for mitigation. Yeah, yeah.
Great. Well,
Well,
Paul, I'm gonna.
those are
Go ahead.
plastic bottles, aren't they? Aren't they plastic as opposed to glass?
That is correct. Which also helps. No, I'm sorry. Henry McKenna is in glass at that size, 1.75. They're unfortunately in glass, but they could be transferred.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, I'm going to turn things over to Captain Paul Grogan, our president-elect. And is he still here?
Yeah, he's here.
He's here. Okay. All right. Good. I'm going to mute myself and turn things over to Paul.
Thank you, Pedichi. We appreciate it. So,
Okay, I think I can speak now.
yes, you can. It's all yours.
Okay.
Oh, I think you're on mute, Paul.
Okay, yeah, I was on the pets call, so making up for my training. And I understand you guys are talking about hurricane relief and some of the areas of what we can do to be prepared in 6950 and beyond areas. Am I right on that?
Yes, you are.
Okay, well, we focused when I did this discussion with Will. I thought about the focal point, and there's some things that we did in our area, but there was resources available locally at the state level, national level, and international level, including Rotary Disaster. So I thought it would be important to make sure, and I'll share this with the group. I'll put it into a flyer and just let you guys know that there is a Florida. There's like in Citrus County, they have the Board of County Commissioners. They always have a resource, and it's probably one of the better websites to go to find out where your best resources are. And then the second one would be the Sheriff's Department, specifically in Citrus County. Those are the things that they're focusing on. And then, believe it or not, there's a United Way and the food bank that that's part of the county website. So at the state level in Florida, it's volunteerflorida.org and then floridadisaster.org. If it's a food bank where you're facilitating a food bank, you can reach out to feedingflorida.org and they can help you with the food bank that you're probably helping with locally. And then, of course, there's an organization, volunteer sign up at the county level and the state level. And it's probably important to sign up for that before the disaster instead of after, so that your name's already on the list and you already have all the prerequisites done. And that allows you to go into areas that some people might not be able to go into as a matter of helping through the Rotary and, of course, just neighbors helping neighbors. Do you guys have any questions on the state or county level associations?
Paul, are you on video, direct video?
I don't know how to do the video on my phone without
There you
shutting.
are. You're there.
I'm here. But when I speak, it shuts it off.
Understand.
So when I speak, it shuts the speaker off. Or when I video, it shuts the speaker off.
Well, one thing is, for all of us in the Rotary world, we can always go to our assistant governors, our district governor, and they can in turn work to get us some assistance through Rotary channels. For your particular geographic area, normally there are public information announcements that go out to everybody, say, hey, if you have a need of something, you know, you got a hole in your roof, you call, I think it's 211, and then they can help match you up with some resources to mitigate those things. And then, of course, every county has an emergency operations center. They work at the county level. And of course, the state of Florida has assets, federal government, FEMA. But as I had mentioned earlier in my presentation, you know, FEMA's had a lot of cutbacks and reduction in funding. So I don't personally feel comfortable counting on them showing up in the first week. So
Mhm.
I think with a lot of things, so I always look at the big picture, but I always start with making sure that I'm okay so I can help everybody else. And then that expands into those physically closest to me or to us, to Will and I. You know, look out for your neighbors. We've got a handyman that lives right next door. You know, people, you know, everybody can help each other prepare and repair.
yeah, Alicia and I both worked with a Pinellas County disaster recovery entity called Recover Tampa Bay. And unfortunately, after working with that entity for 5 years and hiring our own executive director, they decided to abolish that entity and just kind of go it alone as a single county thing through their EOC. I don't know where all that stands now, but we had access to resources from the state all the way down through all the counties that affected us several years ago. But most counties do have some kind of a long-term recovery organization. And that's what Rotary's forte has always been.
You know,
I mean, yes,
that's a good leeway. So as I've told people, this past weekend, I taught a class for Rotary's Leadership Institute, which you know, I'm proud to say I'm a discussion leader. But my class is on the big picture. And the big picture starts with the clubs and the clubs working together. I mean, when Ian hit district hard in district 6960, our district 6950 were right there with truckloads. I mean, the clubs they just stepped up and loaded truckloads of supplies to go down to Fort Myers, Naples, Cape Coral area. When Helene and what the other hurricane, I can't remember. Sorry.
but Ian?
No, not Ian.
Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, when the two hurricanes hit up here, they in kind sent resources up. So one of
Milton, right? Milton?
Milton, yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't here. I was in Ohio. Maybe that's why I can't remember
I
that.
was in Plant City.
Oh my! But you know, that's just the thing is. That's the great thing with Rotary is we start out as a club and we as an e-club have even greater reach because we are, I said, we're up to almost 27 members now with boots on the ground, so to speak, in at least 15 different districts. that's a lot of, resources that we can pull. Did you have a question?
Well, just a comment, and that is that I have 5 internet sites that nail all the information from hurricanes as they're coming in, from water levels in Tampa Bay to wind speeds, 60 miles off the coast to whatever. So, and I've shared those with Will and others every time something starts to tease us. But that would be a good thing to have along with a good battery powered laptop so that you can stay informed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
And it's, Suzanne, I like your comment that you made that, exchange phone numbers. I mean, we could do a tree, if we wanted to, but like I said, our members are so spread out. Malone is in DC. Paul is usually somewhere in the Atlantic. He's somewhere.
It's useful if you have to leave your location and the
Right.
people, somebody stays behind. That was the point of all of this. My
Yeah.
next door neighbor decided to ride it out. And at 9:30, she said, "There's water in my house." And at that point, there was no more electricity and I
Yeah.
didn't hear from her again.
Yeah.
So,
So,
I knew
Yeah.
something was up. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, we are currently at my office putting in place a kind of list where we basically ask people, if they are willing to volunteer, what kind of equipment they have, what kind of skill they have. So basically, we just build a list like that. And me being remote, I will be in charge of basically, actioning, reaching out to people. And so might be also something we can think of, if we would like to build something like that, because at least we have all the information up front, and when it's come, the hurricane come, it's just about, deploying,
I think that's awesome. I mean, information and communication is, really is key.
yeah.
Malone and I stayed in touch during the hurricanes,
Yeah.
and I happened to be up in New York State in Lake Champlain, and the guy I was working with, actually, his sister actually lived in 6950 in Crystal River,
Mm.
and they had 2 houses. One was in the floodplain, the other one wasn't. So they
Mhm.
were okay. But it's the idea that I was able to help, and through you guys and some of the local resources, I felt like I should help. And then I reached Derek, who was a district